guys, Shelby Matthews with Bernstein Realty, and today I have two of my favorites. I have Amy Bernstein, broker and owner of Bernstein Realty, and we also have Vin Chung with a My Foreclosure Hero. And today we're just going to feedback off of each other and discuss how auctions work, foreclosures, and anything that relates to investment properties.
We're really excited because I was telling Vin before we started recording that this is an area that I've always been interested in, but never really have focused on it or gotten the expertise on how to find those properties that are either at the auction or in foreclosure and things like that. Just not a market that we really have focused on. So I've always thought it's interesting, and just talking to him offline before we got started, it is even more interesting. So Vin, thanks for being here today. So nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I know I've seen you in the runnings of the real estate world, so it was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And what a treat for people to know what you do. That really is the bottom line, because you have no idea how many people call and say, hey, you know, I want to buy an investment property. I want to get mailbox money every month because I want to keep it as a rental, or I want to buy and flip properties. And how do I do that? And so we on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, will look for those properties for our clients on a regular basis. But there are other avenues of properties that don't hit the MLS, that having somebody that's an expert on how to guide you through that process is what Vin does. So at the end of the day, once our customers find a property that they're interested in, buy it and want to either keep it as a rental property for cash flow purposes, or they want to buy it and rehab it and flip it, or buy it and flip it period without rehabbing, hopefully we're the company that you call to handle that part of it for you. So they kind of end game of the transaction. But acquiring these properties is a challenge because so many people want to invest in real estate. And if you watch a lot of these programs online or TV shows, it's how to buy for nothing down, or how to buy and get rich in real estate, and all of these things. And there's always a little caveat to it. So Vin is here today to make it real for us, which I'm really excited about.
Thank you. Thank you. Love to be here.
So tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
So I am with My Foreclosure Hero, and I've been helping people.
My Foreclosure Hero.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've been helping investors, buy rental cash flow income properties for adding into their portfolio, right? So in the last 4 years, like whenever you want to find a property that's in foreclosure. So right now in Harris County, there's about 600 foreclosures right now.
600 every month, or
every 21 days?
Every 21 days.
So
wow.
After the 21 day, the first Tuesday, the properties get foreclosed, another 600, 620, 650 hit the market again.
Okay, so let me interrupt and ask a question. Out of those 600 properties that are up for foreclosure every 21 days, do they all trade hands? Do they all get picked up? What happens?
So half of those 600, 50% of them are bad deals. Like can't even touch it, can't do anything with it.
What is a bad deal?
A bad deal is where the debt exceeds the value of the property, or there's an IRS tax lien, or there's a judgment that oversees the value there, right? Or the hard money lender loans too much and they can't sell it, or it's a construction loan and they half finish it where it costs too much money to fix, right? Okay. So half of them are bad.
So tell the consumers that the public that's watching what a hard money lender is.
I see. So same scenario, if you like one of those deals in there, a hard money lender, a private money lender, what they do is that they finance 70% of the after repaired value. So if the property's worth $300,000, they'll finance $210, right? And if you bought it for $150, they're gonna cut you a check for the 60 for you to do the repairs.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can finance the repairs.
You can finance the repairs. But if you bought it for 190, they're only gonna cut you 20,000 of the repairs, and then you have to front the rest of it out.
Okay, so what's the difference between a hard money lender and a mortgage lender?
So hard money lending doesn't require any paycheck stubs. They don't require bank statements. They don't even require tax returns. They look at the asset as the main source of why they're going to fund. So
and the loan to value of that asset. Okay.
Right? So they don't care if you don't have a social, they don't care if you have a TIN number, they don't care if it's under the LLC. They look at the asset. As long as the asset qualifies for 70% below LTV,
okay,
then they're going to give you the financing.
That helps me. And so is that hard money lender an individual? Is it a bank? It could be both. It doesn't matter.
You know, in today's market, there's probably about 10 local hard money lenders, like big companies out here in the city. And there's hundreds of private money lenders. And a private money lender could be Shelby's dad that has $150,000 sitting in his savings account that's making a 4% if he's lucky.
Gotcha.
And I could be like, hey, look, I have an investment property. Could I borrow your dad's $100,000 and I'll pay him $10,000 worth of interest?
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
A hard money lender is different, where they need a title policy. They need to do an appraisal. They need to do a survey. They need to inspect the property. They're out there and it's their business. They're running it and they want to make sure that the LTV and all the numbers match. So it's two different ones.
So they're loaning on the deal. They're
Yes.
loaning on the transaction. And
Correct.
they're probably hoping that you foreclose, right? So that they can take your property back.
You know,
I'm teasing.
no,
I'm teasing.
so like a
But
lot
they
of
have a lot of equity in the deal.
yes,
Right. So they don't
Yeah.
have. There's a small risk factor.
that's right,
right?
That's right.
So then, if the hard money lender needs a title policy and all these things, when you go to foreclosure, what is expected? So let's dial back a little bit. Do you get a list of those properties every month or every 21 days? And you know where to look and you get the property. So Shelby tells you she's got a client that wants to buy income producing or properties to flip. She gives you the criteria of what her clients want, and you go out and you bird dog those properties. And once you find one, you call the client or you call Shelby and say, I've found the property. We need to go to this auction. And you can either go for that person or does that person go with you? How does that work?
So normally, whenever a client is procured and they have a certain type of investment they want to buy, you know, we focus and let them know that like the numbers are the most important thing, not their emotion. Because a lot of people buy investments on emotion, and I just tell them you have to focus on the numbers. And so when they give me a criteria and I say, hey, look, this location makes you a 46% ROI, but the one that you want only makes you an 18%, it's going to be up to them, because my job is to make sure that they're going to get their best investment, right? And so like whenever we do locate that property for them, they need an agent just like Shelby or somebody in this office. And what will happen is that most of those properties, not most, but like maybe 20% of them are actually listed on MLS. Mm-hmm. So they have an agent that's on listing the property. And 9 out of 10 times when I do call the agent, they don't know it's in foreclosure. Their client never told them that I'm in default, I owe, I'm upside down, or I'm losing my house in 21 days. They don't know that. So the conversation is a little bit different. I'd be like, hey, look, I have a client that wants to buy this property as an investment property. We want to make an all cash offer, close before the 21 days, and then present the offer. And then the offer gets presented, offer's too low. Well, here's the reason why my offer's low. Here's the notice of foreclosure, and here's how it looks like. Here's what you owe. Here's why it's reasonable, and here's what I can do for you. And so when we present that, most 8 out of 10 times they'll reconsider that and take that lower offer, because if it does go to foreclosure, they lose everything at the auction.
Which is something super cool, because I had that happen a couple of years ago, actually. And what ended up happening was my client told me right before we listed the property, she was like, hey, by the way, I'm about to go into foreclosure for her HOA.
Oh, okay.
And we were down to the nitty gritty of time, and I kid you not, that was such a stressful situation. However, we handled it with grace, and we ended up closing that day and funding the money from the buyer the day of foreclosure.
Wow, so tight.
So
Good
tight,
job.
and we did it.
Wow.
And I mean, we just ended up having a dream team. We had HOA on our side, that other.
So did everybody
other
take
party
a
on
little
our
bit of a
team.
haircut to make the transaction?
We made it happen.
Got it.
We
Got
made
it.
it happen. But that's another thing I think a lot of people can misconstrue, you know, at the end of the day, is just because we talked about this already. Amy, you'll see it too. If you attend the auction, you'll see some things say canceled, or you'll see it, as he said, digitally online as well, because some people were able to catch it before it hit auction or before the foreclosure.
So canceled meaning they worked it out.
Mm-hmm.
You worked it out.
So these properties go to the list because they're either behind on their taxes or behind on their HOA or behind on their mortgage or something like that.
Or
They get
they've
sued
been
or
sued.
they got a divorce. There's a judgment somewhere. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And usually the judgment and all of that is a little bit more than what the market could bear in the open market. So they get posted. Is that
The judgment is where the two creditors have an amount that was owed to them that wasn't paid. And so that's just the starting bid. But, we were talking about it earlier, is that the starting bid of the judgment isn't the whole debt itself. There's going to also be a first mortgage. There could be a second mortgage on the property where a title company has to be able to pull title to find that out. Because if I take you to the auction with me and I don't pull title, I'm doing a disservice for you because now you're buying a bad deal.
You don't know what debt.
And so I'll pull title for you.
So buying these before they hit the market with you as the guidance is they'll know what debt. So they're getting clear and free title rather than buying it blindly at the auction.
That's right.
And not having a single clue as to the debt that's going to follow behind it.
Yes, that is correct.
Gotcha,
There's a lot of properties at the auction that has mortgages on it. And that's the reason why it's getting foreclosed. And most of them, if it's free and clear, it's not going to get foreclosed on. There's something wrong with the property and there's going to be debt on there. You just have to locate it with a title company or somebody like us where we pull title.
So you do this all the time. And so for a lot of people watching, ROI you mentioned earlier stands for return on investment.
Yes.
So you do the math on it. Well, let's just say I have Joe Buyer who calls me and says, I want to invest in this. You identify it. Does Joe Buyer then call me and say, hey, Amy, I've got a property that I could buy. Can you run the comps and tell me what kind of deal I'm getting on this if I can proceed?
Normally, we'll give them everything on the platter. So if they say, hey, I want to buy 2 properties, we will give them the address, the after repair value, the cost of repairs, the closing costs, the escrow, the insurance, everything, right? For them to make a decision, right? And a lot of investors, they don't look for like 6-figure deals. They just look for a solid investment that they could buy and keep it for a long time, right? Some investors look for immediate cash, right? And so it depends on where they're at, but we present the whole thing together and then they could use a third-party source to verify the comps or the after repair value or the appraisal value.
Gotcha. So they may ask questions of us like, what if I fix it up? What could I turn around and sell this for?
Yep.
Or if it gets fixed up, what could I lease this for?
Yes.
Etc.
Yes.
So usually when somebody wants to buy these properties, how do they move forward? What is the process for the consumer if they are interested in this? To contact us and
so normally what we'll do is we'll have them sign the IBS form that you guys offer.
So slow down one sec. So the IABS means the form that talks about all the different types of representation offered to them.
Yes.
Okay.
So we know that they have an agent, so we make sure that the agent gets paid in the transaction. And then they'll have either a listing agreement that when they buy this property, when they do sell it, they do use the same agent because, we want to try to keep the money inside the pot. And then we'll have our engagement agreement where each property that we buy, we charge a fee. It can be anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000, regardless of how much equity you make. We'll find you the best property that possible. And then once we have that, off we go. You just tell me how much capital you have, how many properties you want to buy, and then I just make it happen.
And those fees, that's a negotiable amount with you, right? I'm sure you have your fee structure that
He starts at $25K.
That's the start. Okay, that's good to know. You know that firsthand.
I got y'all.
So and that is on for every property they close on.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, do they still? I say they, meaning the consumer. Does the consumer still have the right to do inspections and all of that?
It depends on the transaction itself, right? So like if it's on the MLS, right? So right now, we have a property that is worth $450, Crystal Beach, and the realtor from eXp Realty called me yesterday, and she said the seller owes $315, $20,000 behind, and the seller only wants $15,000 to walk. So all in, the deal is $330 when it's worth $425. So there's $85,000 left in equity, right? And so within my job is, hey, look, who wants to buy in Crystal Beach? And I put them together and then I charge a fee. So in this case, let's pretend it's $25,000. So then the investor that is buying that deal is making $55,000. So that would be the profit they would make. Yeah.
So that's the potential profit.
Correct.
Right?
Based on the numbers, yeah.
Based on the numbers,
Yeah.
and then they'd have to hire an agent to turn around and sell that for them.
Yes.
And that fee would come off. So they'd have to consult with us to say, what are my costs involved in selling this property acquires? That's their net profit.
That
right?
is correct.
Because they would pay from the day they close the carrying cost of the property, the taxes and all that.
That's right.
So it's not really 100% that, but technically if it flipped right away,
Yeah.
then they've got to take their fees off of that.
Yeah, and like that one is probably going to be more of a long-term Airbnb type deal because it's on the beach. The good thing about these type of deals is that they don't have to go get hard money. They don't have to go get private money. There's already existing loan in place, and we were talking about subject to earlier, and essentially the seller would deed over the new investor the title to the property.
Oh wow!
Yeah, through a title company, totally legit, right? We have a contract, purchase and sales 1 to 4 track contract, and the seller would deed over to the investor the title to the property. This the buyer would cut a check to the bank to stop the foreclosure, which is the $20,000 behind, and they would cut another check to the seller for $15,000,
Wow.
and they would just take over the loan. And
Wow.
right now it's at like a 7% interest rate, and the payment's like $3,000. And so
Or
once
they could get a new loan with lower interest rates.
that's correct. But the reason why I suggested this way is because the cost to procure that $315,000 loan could cost them, through a mortgage broker to get a loan, it could cost them, $15,000 to $20,000. Right.
Gotcha.
So like it's cheaper to do it this way, where they're just cutting 2 checks and they have the same title, insurance,
Got it.
and have an investment in the next 2-3 weeks.
And then
So-
they could always refinance down
If
the
they wanted
line
to.
If they wanted
That's
to.
a great point.
Yeah.
So they acquire it quickly, and then they can decide how they want to do it. They could pay it off, or they could
Yep.
whatever they want to
Flexible.
do.
Or
Yeah.
they could do another sub too if they wanted to.
Yes. So how'd you get involved in this?
So I started when I was 24, and I wanted to be
And
a
now
real estate
you're
agent.
28.
I am 44 and a half, going 45. My birthday is coming up. You're invited. You're
Oh,
invited too.
perfect.
Invited too. You guys are here.
Perfect.
So I started 24, and I didn't know anything more, and so I went to apply to get my real estate license. And I took a couple classes. I went to the
Real estate school.
real estate.
Yeah.
I think the Champs is right here.
Champion.
Yeah. I went
We
through the
love
whole
them.
thing. Yeah, I went through the whole thing, and I opened up the newspaper, a Sunday newspaper one day, and the Sunday newspaper said how to buy a house with no money down, which is what you just said earlier. And so I was like, how do you buy real estate with no money down? And I'm 24, I'm still going to college. I'm like, I'm broke. I don't have any money, and I do want to buy some real estate, right? So
You go from wanting your kid in a candy jar to a kid wanting real estate.
I was like, I just want to like list properties and sell some properties, and then all of a sudden it talks about buying real estate. So I signed up for that 3-day weekend. I went to the class. It was actually right here in the Galleria, and I went to the class Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I came out. And I kid you not, I came out. I was like, oh my MF,
Your head was
God
full.
darn it! I cannot believe it that there's a market for this side. Like I didn't even understand investing at the time. And so I said, forget about it, because it was Monday. And I said, I'm not going to go take the test, and I'm going to go do this. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy,
destiny.
right? And so they told me where to go get the list from. And that's what I did. I went to Foreclose Houston. I got the list. I downloaded the list, and I drove every single one of those properties.
Wow. Great story.
In the 21 days, I drove, it was August, and I drove every single one of those properties. I knocked on a door. A wife came out, and she said, yes, my husband is sick, he's dying, he's at the hospital, and we are losing our house. And I said, what is it that I can help you with? What is it that you need? And she said she needed $10,000 for the hospital bill, and they needed $10,000 to relocate. And so I looked at the numbers, and it was still good. So then I offered them the $20,000.
So how'd you come up with the 20?
I was only 24, but I had good credit. I had like a 780. I had a really good credit. And so my sister, and this is a hack too, okay guys? So my sister at 15, she added me on her credit card.
Oh my gosh.
And at 16, I had really good credit. And at 17, I bought my first car with her as a co-signer. And so at the time, I remember I had 4 credit cards, and all my credit lines were like 12 to 15,000. And she had mentioned to me, and this is a credit to her, but she had mentioned to me, you could do a balance transfer out of your credit card into your checking account, at a 0% or whatever the rate may be. And so I didn't have any money at the time, and nobody trusts a 24-year-old with any money at all, right? Nobody does.
And no
right?
experience.
And yeah, no experience, nothing at all. I just wanted to take this class. And so I remember that I did the balance transfer. I took I think it was like $28,000 out of all my 4 credit cards out. Wow. And I took it all out, and I gave her the check for 20 because it would have to deposit into your checking account, and it took like 3-4 days. And then with the other $8,000, I used that for rehab. Because I remember I had to paint and carpet.
Yes, that is. That makes me want to go out and buy some of these investment properties.
That's just the dream. You had the dream instilled in yourself.
Well, you had grit. Grit. That's my favorite word. Grit.
Yeah.
But so some of these properties need rehab, and
yes.
Are there any that? Well, I always say a property always needs something.
Yes.
But yes. I'm so fastidious about real estate as properties that. If it had a paint chip over there, I'd be like, "Oh God, it needs to be rehabbed." But some may not require the rehab at all,
correct.
Right?
That's correct. Yeah. So if it depends on the strategy that you deploy on your investment. So if you are going to keep it, then I probably wouldn't paint the whole thing, right? But if you are going to flip it and you want the best highest dollar, then yes, maybe you need to paint that whole wall.
Yes.
Right.
So it may need just cosmetic updating, right?
Yes.
That you go in there and do that.
Yeah.
Does the consumer have the opportunity to see the property, obviously, before they buy it?
So on that same type of deal, if it is a pre-foreclosure, which is not before it hits the auction, I'm sorry, if it's a pre-foreclosure, but it hasn't gone to the foreclosure sale and it's in that interim, yes, you could definitely go inside. So normally what we'll do is we'll have an agreement with the seller, we'll sign a contract, and we put in our agreement, buyer and its partners are allowed to see within a 24-hour notice the property anytime.
Nice.
So then if you're my partner, I'd be like, hey, look, you want to see the property? Cool, come. All right, Amy, come with me. Right.
Gotcha.
And so we get to inspect the property, right? The crazy thing about this is that even if you inspect it, even if you do an appraisal, even if you do a survey, the numbers are not going to change. Meaning the bank is still going to be the same.
Yes.
The interest rate is going to be the same because you're taking over the loan.
You're just taking away your fear a little bit.
Yes, correct. So you can do the inspection and everything, right? So you can do all of the things, but you can't get a better deal. You can't say, based on this...
you don't go in and retrade.
Yeah, based on this, report, there's a foundation problem and I want $8,000 off. Like normally, once we agree to a number, we don't go back, right?
Got it.
And so it's a peace of mind, I guess, right? So
but you have the right to cancel. You
have the right to cancel.
Gotcha.
Yes, correct. And normally, if we are going to cancel, we have to give them like a lot of notice because they're in foreclosure and they're about to lose it, right? And I'm not saying this about other investors, right? But a lot of investors will have a contract and they won't close and they'll come in with another offer at the end just to get a better deal. And I don't suggest that at all, but a lot of people do that.
So it's kind of like a bait and switch a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like those guys at all. But I don't suggest at all. But yes, you can cancel it for some reason if the money that you're giving them is too much and there is foundation and if there is roof or the AC doesn't work. Yes, you can go back in and renegotiate.
Gotcha. Well, wow. I think we could talk about this all day long. That really is the fact. But I know Twan will kill me for keeping this podcast longer than he likes him to.
There you go.
So maybe we've gotten people excited about the opportunity of this and started to inform them a little bit. Knowledge is always a very powerful thing. And maybe we revisit the conversation a little bit later and say, now what happens now? We've identified the property, but one question before we say goodbye is this applies to pre-foreclosure, and if somebody wanted you to go to the auction for them, you would do that as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. So if you didn't want the pre-foreclosure and you only want to buy auction properties where we'll probably give you a cleaner title, I could hold your hand and then I can take you to the auction with me, right? And so here's the process, right? So we identified 10 properties and you like 5 of them, right? So what I'll do is that I'll have a maximum bid for these 5 properties and I'll be like, hey, set up an LLC by itself to buy these properties. And then you're gonna set up an LLC through an attorney or a CPA. And then once you have the LLC docs, we go then use the LLC docs to register to bid at the auction. And then once I have you registered to bid at the auction, the cashier's check that you're going to bring is going to be payable to your LLC because I don't want your money. The constable is going to want your money. The attorney is going to want your money.
Right.
So then now the checks are payable to the LLC, and when you win the property, it gets endorsed to to
Gotcha.
to the constable or to the attorney's
Gotcha.
office. And then from there, within 3 weeks, they'll give you a copy of the deed, and then you're going to be the proud owner of the new real estate.
That's exciting. So if somebody is interested in really learning more, or even just putting their big toe in and starting this process, what they could do is contact you, Shelby, and then you would put them in touch,
Right.
and they would have the dream team.
Yes,
actually,
that's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they would have Shelby, who knows what the market prices are as is price, and what a price would be if you were to fix it up. And then they would have you that would go out and bird dog those properties for them. And hopefully if it was a flip, then we'd fix it up, and then Shelby would come in and sell it for them again. So
Yeah.
that really would be a very exciting opportunity for the consumer and for you guys as well. So let's say that we will have more questions as we move forward, but
We're
for
gonna
now,
bring her to our auction.
I'm
coming
coming to the
We're gonna
auction.
come back and interview you and see what you
I
like.
like it. I've always wanted to go to those auctions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to give you a little wish list of properties that I'm interested
It's
in.
so
And if you find them, then great.
yeah. I mean, just think about it. There's 600 properties. Half of them are bad deals. There's 8 precincts in Harris County, and there's probably going to be like maybe 600, 700 people there. So
Wow.
it's like a huge
It's like
wedding,
Wall
right?
Street,
It's-
I'm telling you.
yeah,
it's so cool for real
Really?
estate.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's very
So
cool.
the consumer, if they got interested, could go with you
Absolutely.
as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it could be
absolutely.
an experience that they could learn as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a public auction, so you guys are definitely invited. There's tons of people there, and there's just so many addresses that, like, if you don't do your research, it's going to look like a puzzle. It's going to you're gonna be lost.
Well, you got to do your research
Yeah.
before, and you may find the opportunity to find one before it gets to that madhouse of an auction and buy it in pre-foreclosure.
Right.
To me, I think that's a great that's what I've learned most today, and I think that's a great opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Sometimes the word hard money lender makes me a little nervous, and I
Really?
think that my vision of hard money lender, of the ones that I've run into, charge a usurious amount of interest, and they just charge ridiculous fees and all of that. So apparently you know the right lenders that don't do that.
You know, the average right now is 3 points and 14.9%.
Okay, well that's high.
So
You go to a hard money lender if you need a hard money lender.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
and a lot of
That's
investors.
kind of like, let me interrupt for a second, but not to interrupt, but to interrupt. That's 3 times what the interest rate is today.
correct,
Right?
and they're only using it for like 3 months, 4 months.
So it's a short term.
Short, yeah.
I need it now. I don't
Yeah.
want to go through the whole mortgage process.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay a premium, but I'm going to get it quick and get it fast. And they're not going to give me a colonoscopy of my financial status.
no.
They're going to look at just the transaction.
Yep,
So that's what a hard money lender is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the last rescue loan. Yes.
Gotcha. I have this picture of these people
No.
in dark suits.
They're really
that
nice.
Come
They're
after
really
you.
nice.
If you find the right people, they're there
They're
to
really
listen with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds
Okay,
great.
Thank you.
Well, super nice to meet
Thank you.
you. What a
Absolutely.
treat.
Yeah.
And look forward to doing business with you.
Absolutely.
And I know we have clients that will also be very interested.
Very cool.
So I will say stay tuned, because we will bring him in again and ask more questions and as we learn more about this process.
I think the next time we do talk about it, we should probably be talking about the Roth IRA 401k.
Yes.
Okay.
So if they don't have any capital and they don't have any credit, and if they have a retirement account, we could use that retirement account to buy properties at the auction.
Nice.
Which is what we
And
did on our
pre-foreclosure.
last deal.
Yeah, we did a retirement account.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's have another
So-
podcast about that.
There you go.
For
Got it.
sure. And I mean, I can speak completely of Shelby. She's amazing. We've worked together for a long, long time, and she does an amazing job. And then this new concept is great. So I think, you can watch a lot of people and they say, where did you make your money? Where did you make your money? And a lot of it is real estate.
Real estate. There you
So,
go.
all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I am going to say that before we sign out, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned for a future podcast. And remember, your home is our expertise. Thank you for watching.